Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive on something that's a major challenge for nonprofits,
Hmm.
keeping their great employees. We'll be talking about retention today,
Yeah,
and it's something that impacts everyone, even if you don't work at a nonprofit.
right.
To help us out today, we've got some excerpts from The Great Retention, Strategies to Keep Top Talent in the Nonprofit Sector,
Okay.
and we've also got a really interesting YouTube video that we'll be referencing as well.
A lot of people think that retention is an internal problem,
Mm-hmm.
but it really impacts everyone involved with a nonprofit.
Yeah.
It can affect a nonprofit's ability to really serve their community and even get funding.
Yeah, it's like this domino effect that happens.
Exactly.
And the numbers are really shocking. The average turnover rate for nonprofits is 21%.
Wow.
That's like 1 in 5 employees leaving every year.
Yeah.
And what's even crazier is that almost half of nonprofit workers are thinking about looking for a new job by 2025.
Yeah, it's a real crisis, and there are a few reasons why this is happening.
Hmm.
A 2024 report by Michelle Flores-Vrin talked about the top reasons employees leave.
Okay.
And they said, feeling overwhelmed with too much responsibility, without enough support,
Yeah.
not having opportunities to grow their career,
Right.
and of course, not getting paid enough are the top three.
So we know that there's this huge problem with people leaving nonprofits.
Yes.
But what does that actually mean for a nonprofit when they constantly have to replace people?
Well, financially, it's a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
Replacing just one salaried employee can cost a nonprofit at least 1/3 of that employee's yearly pay.
Whoa.
Think about all the things that money could be used for,
Right.
like expanding programs or starting new ones.
Exactly.
Instead, it's all being used to hire new people.
It's like pouring money down the drain.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's not just money that's lost.
Right.
All of the knowledge that employee had leaves with them.
Exactly. All that institutional knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
So think about a fundraiser who's been working at an organization for 4 years. They finally have all the donor relationships figured out, and then they leave.
And the organization has to start over.
Exactly. So it's like every time someone leaves, they have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, and that hurts a nonprofit's ability to really make a difference.
Definitely.
Makes it much harder to keep things running consistently and achieve those big goals they have.
Right.
That's why figuring out how to keep employees around is so important.
So we know this is a serious problem, but we don't want to focus on the negative.
Right.
What can nonprofits actually do to keep their awesome employees from leaving? And this article says, thankfully, it's not all about just raising salaries.
Yeah, there are a lot more ways to keep employees happy.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where employees feel valued and supported and like they're a part of something.
Right.
It's about the whole package.
Okay, so for example, one thing they mention is giving employees opportunities for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense because 44% of people who left nonprofits in 2021
Wow.
said they left because they felt stuck in their job.
Yeah, they need to know that there are opportunities to learn new things.
Right.
And grow their careers.
Yeah, if they feel like their job is a dead end, they're going to want to leave.
Exactly.
And it doesn't always have to be about promotions or getting a fancier job title.
Right.
It can also be about things like training or connecting them with someone who's been at the organization a long time, who can be their mentor.
Yeah, like the American Red Cross has a great leadership program for employees.
Oh,
So their employees can get the skills and experience they need to become managers.
I like that.
They're helping their employees become leaders.
It's like creating a pipeline of talent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. And here's something that really surprised me.
Okay.
The article said that a lot of employees say that having a flexible work schedule
Mm-hmm.
is just as valuable as getting a 10% raise.
It's interesting, right?
It is. I never thought about it like that.
It shows how important work-life balance is to employees now,
Right.
especially for people who have families or other commitments. That flexibility can really make a difference.
So we've talked about giving employees ways to grow their careers and giving them flexibility. But now I kind of want to talk about the big thing that stresses everyone out.
Oh, yeah, burnout.
Yes. Burnout is a big problem in the nonprofit world.
Yeah, especially after the pandemic.
Right.
During the pandemic, 51% of Americans said they were dealing with mental health problems at work.
That's a lot.
And for people working at nonprofits, it was even worse.
Yeah, because they're often dealing with really hard situations and not making a lot of money.
Exactly.
And speaking of money, almost 90% of nonprofits have less than $500,000 to work with every year.
Wow.
So it's really hard for them to pay their employees a lot of money,
Yeah, but money isn't everything.
right?
There are other things nonprofits can do to help their employees feel good about working there, even if they can't pay them a lot.
Okay, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah.
What are some things they can do?
Well, one of the best things is to just check in with their employees and see how they're doing. Managers should make time to talk with each employee,
Mm, mm.
not just about their work, but about how they're feeling in general.
Like, are they feeling overwhelmed?
Exactly.
I like that because then you can address those problems before they get worse.
Right. It's about being proactive.
Yes.
Instead of waiting for things to get really bad.
And it's important for managers to set a good example.
Oh, yeah.
Like if they're always working late and on weekends,
Right.
it's going to make employees feel like they have to do that too.
And that can lead to burnout.
Yeah, managers should be encouraging employees to actually use their vacation time
Definitely.
so everyone feels okay taking breaks.
It's about creating a culture where people feel like they can take care of themselves.
I like that.
And don't forget about having some fun at work.
Oh, yeah.
Even small things like having a walking club or doing yoga at lunch can help.
Or like a fun team building activity that isn't another meeting.
Exactly. It's about having a good time at work and not always being stressed. Because when people feel good, they do good work.
So we've talked about how important it is to give employees a chance to grow in their job, pay them fairly, create a good work environment, and address burnout.
Mm-hmm.
But how do nonprofits know if they're doing a good job at keeping their employees around?
Yeah, we need to be able to measure our progress
Right.
and make changes if things aren't working.
So the article talks about how to calculate the retention rate.
Oh, okay.
You start by counting how many employees you had at the beginning of the year,
Okay.
and then you subtract how many people left during that year.
Okay.
Then you divide that number by the number of employees you started with
Got it.
and multiply by 100 to get a percentage.
Okay, so let's say you had 150 employees at the beginning of the year
Mm-hmm.
and 10 employees left during the year.
Okay.
That means you would subtract 10 from 150, which is 140.
Right.
Then you would divide 140 by 150, which
Yeah.
is like 0.93,
Okay.
and then multiply that by 100.
Okay.
And you get a retention rate of 93%. That's a really good retention rate.
So for nonprofits, what's a good retention rate?
Above 90% is usually considered good.
Okay.
If it's lower than that, then they need to look at what they're doing and see if they need to make some changes.
Yeah. It's not enough to just look at that one number, though, right?
Right.
We have to figure out why people are leaving.
Yeah. Are they leaving because they found a better job?
Right. Or are they being let go?
Exactly.
We need to know the reason.
And exit interviews can be really helpful for that.
Oh, yeah.
When an employee leaves, you can talk to them and ask them why they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also find out what the organization could be doing better.
Yeah, it's like getting feedback from your employees.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you can learn what's working and what's not.
It's all about creating a workplace where employees feel comfortable sharing their thoughts.
Yes.
Both good and bad.
Exactly. And a place where they feel heard and appreciated.
Exactly. Welcome back to our deep dive on keeping those awesome employees at your nonprofit.
I'm ready to keep learning. Before we really got into the numbers,
Right.
we were talking about how nonprofits have unique challenges when it comes to retention.
Yeah, it's not always the same as a for-profit company.
Mm-hmm.
This YouTube video we're looking at really highlighted that.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to forget that nonprofits are just different.
Yeah, they really are.
They have different goals,
Yeah.
and they have to work with a lot less.
Exactly. And all of that impacts the people who work there.
Right. So what are some of those unique challenges that nonprofits face?
Well, one of the biggest is that nonprofits are mission-driven.
Okay, but isn't that a good thing?
It is, but it's also a challenge.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Tell me more about that.
So people who work at nonprofits are usually really passionate about the cause.
Right, they want to make a difference.
Exactly. And that passion can be really motivating,
Mm-hmm.
but it can also lead to burnout,
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
especially if they're not getting the support they need.
It's like they're giving so much of themselves that they end up exhausted and burnt out.
Yeah. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Ooh, I like that.
So nonprofit leaders need to make sure their employees are taking care of themselves.
Yeah, they need time to rest and recharge
Exactly.
because otherwise they're not going to be able to help anyone.
And it's not selfish to take care of yourself.
No, it's not.
It's actually essential.
Right, it's about protecting the mission by making sure the people working on it are healthy.
Exactly. And that brings us to another challenge that nonprofits often face.
Okay.
Heavy workloads.
Ugh. Yeah, I can imagine.
Nonprofits often have to do a lot with very little.
Right, it's like they're always trying to stretch their resources as far as they can.
Exactly. And that means employees are often doing the work of multiple people.
Yeah, they're wearing multiple hats,
Yeah, and that can be really overwhelming.
and that can lead to burnout, which we already talked about.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to check in with employees regularly, like we talked about in part one.
Right, those workload check-ins.
Exactly, and those check-ins need to be more than just a quick, how are you doing?
Yeah, they need to be real conversations where
Exactly.
you're really listening to your employees.
Managers need to create a space where employees feel comfortable talking about their workload.
Right, and saying if they're feeling overwhelmed.
Exactly. And it's also important to empower employees to delegate tasks and ask for help when they need it.
I like that.
It's about creating a culture of shared responsibility.
Yes, where everyone is working together and supporting each other.
Exactly. And I think this also connects back to giving employees opportunities to grow.
Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, if employees feel like they have a future at the organization,
Mm-hmm.
they're more likely to stick around even when things get tough.
Yeah, they know that there's something to work towards.
Exactly. It's about showing them that they're valued and that there's room for them to grow.
And it's not just about promotions, right?
Right. It can also be about giving them opportunities to learn new skills
Mm-hmm.
or take on new challenges that they're excited about.
Yeah, like maybe they're really interested in marketing.
Right.
And even though they're a fundraiser,
Mm.
they could maybe help out with some marketing projects.
Exactly. It's about nurturing their curiosity and helping them grow as individuals.
I like that.
It's about investing in your employees as people.
Yes, not just as workers.
Exactly. And that investment will pay off in the long run.
Speaking of investing in people, I think it's also important to talk about recognition.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Everyone wants to feel appreciated for the work they do.
Exactly. And in the nonprofit world where people are so passionate about their work,
Right.
recognition is even more important.
It's like they're not doing it for the money, so that recognition really means something.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything big.
Yeah, just a simple thank you can go a long way.
Exactly. Sometimes a handwritten note or a shout out in a meeting is all it takes.
Right, it's about taking the time to notice the effort people are putting in,
And letting them know that their work is appreciated.
and that it makes a difference.
Exactly. It's about making people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
And it's not just about making people feel good, right?
Right.
It's also about creating a positive work environment.
Exactly. When people feel appreciated, they're more likely to do their best work.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everyone.
Exactly. So we've talked about recognizing good work, managing workloads, and addressing the unique challenges that nonprofits face.
Mm-hmm.
What else can organizations do to keep their employees happy and engaged?
Yeah, what else is there?
Well, one thing we haven't talked about yet is mentorship.
Oh, yeah, mentorship is great.
It is, and it's especially important in nonprofits.
How so?
Well, nonprofits often have a lot of younger staff members
Right.
who are just starting out in their careers.
Mm-hmm.
And they can really benefit from having someone more experienced to guide them.
Yeah, someone who's been there and done that.
Exactly. And the article mentioned that people stay at organizations with strong mentoring programs for a lot longer.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like 41% longer.
Whoa, that's a big difference.
It is. So mentoring is a great way to help employees grow their careers
Yeah.
and feel more connected to the organization.
Like they have someone they can go to for advice and support.
Exactly. And it's not just beneficial for the mentee.
Right, it's also good for the mentor.
Exactly. It's a great way for experienced employees to give back and share their knowledge.
And it helps them develop their leadership skills too.
Exactly. So it's a win-win for everyone.
I like that.
And it helps to create a stronger, more connected workplace culture.
Yeah, everyone is learning and growing together.
Exactly. So we've talked about mentoring as a way to develop leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
But what about employees who aren't in management positions?
Right, because leadership isn't just about being a manager.
Exactly. It's about taking initiative and making a difference.
So how can nonprofits encourage those employees to be leaders?
Well, one way is to give them opportunities to lead projects or committees.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it gives them a chance to step up and develop their leadership skills in a real-world setting.
Even if they're not managing a team.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of empowerment
I like that.
where people feel like they have the agency to make a difference.
And speaking of making a difference, I think we should also talk about technology.
Oh, yeah. Technology is changing everything.
It is. How can nonprofits use technology to create a better workplace for their employees?
Well, there are a lot of tools and technologies that can help nonprofits communicate more effectively, streamline their work, and create a more connected work environment.
I'd love to hear some examples.
Well, one example is Slack.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Slack.
It's a platform where employees can chat with each other,
Okay.
share files, and work on projects together.
That sounds really useful.
It is,
Yeah.
especially for remote teams.
Right, because so many people are working remotely now.
Exactly. And technology can help to bridge that gap.
Yeah, it can help people feel connected, even when they're not in the same office.
Yeah. Exactly. And there are so many other tools out there that can be helpful for nonprofits.
Like what?
Well, there are tools for project management, performance tracking, employee feedback,
Hmm.
and even just for having fun at work.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of options.
So it's really about finding the tools that work best for your organization.
Exactly. And it's about making sure that those tools are actually helping your employees.
Right, not just creating more work for them.
Exactly. And it's also about providing training so employees know how to use the tools effectively.
That makes sense.
Because if they don't know how to use the tools, they're not going to be very helpful.
Right. It's all about making sure technology is working for your employees, not against them.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that technology is constantly changing.
Yeah, so we need to be willing to adapt.
Exactly. We need to stay curious and experiment with new tools.
Okay, so in this part of our deep dive, we've talked about some of the unique challenges that nonprofits face.
Mm-hmm.
And we've discussed a lot of different strategies for creating a better work environment.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And I think the main thing to remember is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right. Every organization is different.
And every employee is different.
So it's about finding what works best for your specific situation.
Exactly. But the most important thing is to remember that investing in your employees is an investment in your mission.
I love that.
When your employees are happy and supported, they're going to do their best work,
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about, right?
making a difference in the world.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking all about keeping those awesome employees at nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, this has been a really interesting conversation.
It has. There's so much to think about.
There is. So as we wrap up this episode,
Okay.
what are some of the key takeaways? What do we really want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that keeping employees happy isn't just about giving them more money. It's about so much more than that.
Yeah, it's about making them feel valued
Mm-hmm.
and giving them opportunities to grow and creating a work environment where they feel supported.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing their hard work and helping them avoid burnout.
And we also talked about how nonprofits have unique challenges,
Right?
like having to work with really tight budgets
Mm-hmm.
and often having their employees do the work of multiple people.
And dealing with really tough situations that can be emotionally draining.
So it's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Definitely.
What works for one organization might not work for another.
Exactly.
But the most important thing is to remember that your employees are your most valuable asset.
I love that.
When you invest in your employees,
Mm-hmm.
you're investing in your mission.
That's so true.
Because when your employees are happy and supported, they're going to be more effective at achieving your goals.
Absolutely. And they're going to be more likely to stay with your organization.
Exactly. So what are some things that nonprofits can start doing today to create a better work environment?
Well, one thing is to start having regular check-ins with employees,
Well,
like we talked about before.
mhm.
Not just about their work, but about how they're feeling.
Right.
Are they feeling stressed, overwhelmed?
Yeah.
And then you can work together to find solutions.
And another thing is to start recognizing employees' hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Even small gestures of appreciation can make a big difference, like a simple thank you or a shout out in a meeting.
Exactly. It's about making people feel seen and appreciated.
And another thing is to consider offering flexible work arrangements,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
like letting employees work from home
Mm-hmm.
or have flexible hours.
It shows that you trust your employees
Right.
and that you value their work-life balance.
And these are all things that any nonprofit can do.
Yeah, they don't require a lot of money or resources.
It's really just about making a commitment to creating a better work environment.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. You need to keep listening to your employees and making adjustments as needed.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
What's one small change you can make in your organization
Mm-hmm.
to show your employees that they're valued?
That's a great question for everyone to think about.
It is, because even small changes can make a big difference.
Absolutely. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep investing in your people.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into nonprofit employee retention.
It's been a pleasure.